Welcome, welcome to the weekly worship service of the First Church in Boston, a Unitarian Universalist congregation in the Back Bay. The guest speaker for today is Lindsay Donnelly-Burlington. Her sermon is entitled Article 2 Revisited. Today's service also features guest musician Dolores August on flute.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Benson. I'm co-chair of the worship committee at First Church. I'd like to welcome everyone this morning and thank you for that beautiful music. This is the first Sunday of Women's History Month. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker for this morning, Lindsay Donnelly-Burlington, who will be joining us in just a moment. Lindsay is, let's see, I'm trying to see out of my new glasses here. Lindsay is a Master of Divinity student at Boston University School of Theology and is pursuing a Unitarian Universalist ministry. Recently, she was the summer minister at First Unitarian Church of Memphis, Church of the River, and is currently serves with the Unitarian Universalist Ministry for Earth as a congregational engagement intern. Lindsay will be welcoming you with opening words.
Good morning. As I join you today from this pulpit, I feel the presence of two great mentors of mine who both completed internships in their own formation with this congregation, the Reverend Sam Teitel and Reverend Daniel Lawler. So thank you to this congregation for your part in my formation already. Our opening words come from Reverend Anna Bladel. Darling one, you precious mess. You exhausted, grieving, hollowed, hallowed, hallelujah of a human. Today, if even for a moment, may you feel your own beating heart, your own courageous core, your chest rising and falling with breath, which is spirit, which is life force. Keeping pulse, marking time, finding space. Regardless of how you are feeling, no matter what you are capable of or not. And just for a moment, may you find rest, a bit of ease, held in that sacred rhythm that cannot be without you. Because you precious mess, have breath and heart and life force pulsing through you yet. Please join with me and rise in body and spirit with our opening hymn, number 18, What Wondrous Love. Please be seated. May this chalice be our mirror, its spark, our inspiration towards transformation, its warmth, the love we share gathered together, its light, our shared goal of beloved community, and its fragility, our reminder to hold ourselves with the same care we seek to share with all in our open chalice.
Not have a chalice.
Not so easy, is it?
Not so easy. Anybody have a lighter? No, I'm just kidding.
I think I've learned the the youth version of lighting the chalice that we can all do together, an embodied chalice lighting.
Okay, we can do that.
You
We can do that.
can kind of form two U's with your hands for
Oh.
Unitarian and Universalist, and you join them together and you can flicker the flame. Please join with me in the words for the First Church Boston affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Okay, we have a chalice. We're official. All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you very much. Announcements this morning. There are 2 parking spaces for rent in the church garage. We're advertising on Facebook. And we have also installed a banner, so everybody knows about the availability of these parking spots. So please, if you know anyone or if you yourselves are interested, contact the church office. Reverend Robinson, yes, sorry, Mary. Oh, there's only one left? Oh, yay, okay, great, great. We have 1 parking space, that's wonderful. Reverend Robinson is offering a workshop on death and dying in the coming months. If you're interested in attending, please contact him at 617-710-0508 or edmund@gmail.com. And this information is in your order of service. Does anyone else have any announcements for this morning? Rosemary, thank you.
After church today at 12:30 in the chapel, we have our monthly social justice meeting, a short one and enjoyable.
If I could get someone to help me with the table. Oh, thank you, Gigi. Is this on? Yes. Okay, now is our time for joys and concerns. I would just like to use this time to commemorate one of the pioneers of women's suffrage, Susan B. Anthony. May she rest in peace.
Since I'm standing here, I have a joy I can share. We had a lovely crowd for the organ recital and this international soloist. It was 50 people that came. And many of those people were also not just our congregation, but people from the outside. And one man remarked to me, who's been in Boston a long time and is an organ builder, said, "I've never been in this building." So our outreach is going well. So that's a big happy.
Anyone else? Beverly. Here, microphone. Oh, speak.
Well, I have both the joy and the concern for my brother-in-law, who is fortunately recovering from sorry.
No, the microphone's on. You might want to just lower your mask. Yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
Well, let's see, both the joy and the concern for my brother-in-law. A joy because he is recovering, and a concern because he recently suffered from COVID pneumonia, which I assume is long COVID. And he is, according to my sister, he is doing better. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to share a concern. We had a good friend of ours. We had just spent several weeks with her down in Florida, and she fell and broke her shoulder last Monday. And the healthcare system in Florida is not great. And so she's still waiting to see a specialist in order to figure out what surgery she needs here. And so she's managing with pain meds. Thank you, pain meds. But she is in pain and needs to recover. So please put Joy, her name is Joy, in your heart. Thank you.
Today is the 5th anniversary of my father's death, Leo Collins, and I miss him.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you. I love our choir. In your gray hymnal, please turn to responsive reading 659. For you. The sum of all known reverence I add up in you, whoever you are. Those who govern are there for you. It is not you who are there for them. All architecture is what you do to it when you look upon it. All music is what awakens from you when you are reminded by the instruments. The sun and stars that float in the open air, the apple-shaped earth and we upon it, the endless pride and outstretching of people, unspeakable joys and sorrows, the wonder everyone sees in everyone else they see, and the wonders that fill each minute of time forever. It is for you, whoever you are. It is no farther from you than your hearing and sight are from you. It is hinted by nearest, commonest, readiest. We consider Bibles and religions divine. I do not say they are not divine. I say they have all grown out of you and may grow out of you still. It is not they who gave the life, it is you who give the life. Will you seek afar off? You surely come back at last, in things best known to you, finding the best or as good as the best. Happiness, not in another place, but in this place, not for another hour, but this hour.
Our reading this morning comes from the Reverend Molly Hausch Gordon. Yesterday, I saw a photograph of the way we see the sun move across the sky through the year. Yes, I know we are the ones who move, hanging on for dear life, but just follow my metaphor. If you take a photo of the sky at the same time from the same place every week for a year and put them all together, they create an image that is the same as our symbol for infinity. Mobius strip folding back on itself. When I try to imagine the infinite, I tend to see a line moving upward forever. And I'm terrified of the void into which it must surely carry me along. But the ancients looked at the sun and saw another truth. How time and matter and space double back again to find us. How nothing is lost, all caught in winding embrace. And even if we cower before the infinite, we are held within its looping arms all the same. Please remain seated, but rise in spirit and join me in singing hymn number 318, We Would Be One. Please join me in a spirit of shared prayer or contemplation, followed by a moment of silent reflection. Earlier this week, while I was at the laundromat, a woman found me as a listening ear. Her husband left something in his pants, his birth certificate, and she found it soaked, ink running, on its way into the dryer. We only shared a few words. "Oh no, I'm sorry." A hand pressed to a heart. And on her way out, she said, "God bless you." Spirit of life, divine wonder, loving God, great mystery. May we bless one another as often as we have the chance. May we recognize all the blessings we are given and all the blessings we share with each other. In the face of hurt, of fear, of soggy birth certificates, may we perform the work of our faith to find and magnify the love already there. May we build our beloved community in small moments because we have that chance. In many holy names we pray. Blessed be, and amen. When Reverend Edmund Robinson invited me into the pulpit today, he asked that I preach as a second voice on some potential policy changes going on in our Unitarian Universalist Association, the potential revisions to Article 2 of his bylaws, after he preached on these last week. Now, wherever you are in your UU journey and however familiar you may be with our bylaws, I'll do my best to find words that might reach us all. As Reverend Robinson shared last week, Article 2 now outlines the principles of our covenant and the sources of our living tradition. Our principles included in your order of service are so often the words that many UUs turn towards to describe what it means to live our UU faith. And for several years now, there's been a very popular movement within our tradition to adopt an eighth principle to this Article 2, one that would make explicit our goal many UUs feel as a natural extension of these principles, the goal of building beloved community and of becoming an anti-racist and anti-oppressive movement, looking inside as well as out. In response to this eighth principle movement, a wholly new draft of Article 2 was written, workshopped by UUs virtually, and now stands for a vote this summer at our tradition's General Assembly business meeting. This version of Article 2 re-envisions the work that the principles serve and has transformed them from principles into a set of values, interdependently linked to one another, like the front of your order of service shows, keeping love at the center. Love, which many know is already central to our faith, but love which does not receive mention in our current Article 2. But while I tried to sit and write about Article 2, I found myself without the passion that I usually feel when I talk about these changes. I found myself with my mind elsewhere. Because when I speak to you today, I'm holding the enormity of this moment in our tradition in one hand, but in the other, I'm holding my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. My mind and my heart keep getting pulled back to Tennessee, where the governor just earlier this week signed 2 hateful bills into law. One that bans drag as female impersonation by males and male impersonation by females in any place that minors might see, and one that bans access to trans health care for youth. My neighbors in Mississippi this week passed a similar bill, keeping minors from accessing trans medical care. And Oklahoma seems poised to do the same, also eliminating insurance coverage for adults receiving transition-related care. As I worry especially about whether police in my home state might differentiate between trans people living in public, where children might see us as something different than drag, I find myself without many words for Article 2 right now. This moment, not exclusive to my home, draws my heart towards more words than I can strum up about denominational polity. So I want to talk about transition today as a proud transgender woman. May you find my words however you meet me, whether or not you too are trans. I want to talk about transition today because Reverend Valerie Spencer writes, "Remember, to be trans is one of the most spiritual things one can ever be in and of itself, even should you never pray." She continues, "We are the rare people that caught a glimpse of God being itself as us, dancing around as us. And when we begin to move towards that vision, that is divine." Once, a friend of mine who is also trans told me that trans people are angels. It made me smile, but I didn't think much of it. They pushed, and I'm glad that they did. They said, "No, I really sincerely believe that God put us trans people here with special purpose, to fill the world with the beauty of becoming. By our being, we redesign and reimagine what it might mean to be human. Our presence on earth is special, and I don't know how any higher power could witness our beauty and not form some special relationship with us. Maybe God is especially present in the becoming, the emergence. And if that is so, then I think we at least have some unique experience of this divine force of transformation. Maybe that makes us angels. Because Reverend Spencer continues, "We hear spirit, we just do. We feel it, sense it, know it. But make no mistake, you may feel your gender in your body, but your transness lives beyond it. That's spirit. That's divine." Transness is a thing among our many bodies, and spirit dwells there. We may feel our gender in our bodies, but our transness lives beyond them, in the world of spirit and divinity. Beyond our bodies, but not outside of them. Our transness is like an antenna, or like wings, or like arms, outstretched, clasping hands and connecting our bodies even when they might not touch. beyond our bodies, but not outside of them. Beyond our bodies, like how our minds may wander, but stay always firmly rooted in our brain. Beyond our bodies, like covenant, not just from me to you, or from you to me, but among us together. Our transness is like that, among spirit. Our gender is felt in our bodies, and our transness is beyond it, among divinity. But maybe I should do my job now and talk about Article 2. Because one thing that I find so moving about the proposed changes is the value of transformation. When the first draft of these changes came out, some of the language was different. The graphic was still there, but not how you see it now. All of the values were the same except for this one, transformation. In the first draft, this value was listed as evolution. But what I've been thinking while I intern with Ministry for Earth is that I don't know that evolution is quite a value. Evolution seems to provide a path for species to destroy as much as it does to allow species to survive. Evolution, in my eyes, can be an energy we respect, maybe one we can try to harness, but when our faith movement, especially the Unitarian and Universalist denominations before they merged to form our own, when these movements have tried to hold evolution as a value, it's been as a force to destroy. Our spiritual ancestors proudly called themselves liberal religionists at the same time as they called themselves eugenicists, social Darwinists, people using the new science of evolution as a value to violently uphold white supremacy and ableism. We have a hard history of holding evolution as a value rather than respecting it as a fact. But another important aspect of this draft stuck around. As it's shown on your order of service, these values, they don't exist in isolation. They hold one another up. They're always already intertwined, interdependent, with love at the center. When we hold evolution as a value through love, maybe we can evolve out of hate, away from harm. So the next draft changed this language from evolution to change. And then the Article 2 Study Commission held true to that value of change and changed it once more, moved to the final draft that's before us now, calling this transformation. Reverend Robinson asked me to preach on these proposed changes as a second voice after his, because these principles are so central to how many UUs speak about our faith, and the movement to change them would be a profound change. Not an unheard of one. The language, number, and order of our principles has changed many times since our movement began. The original principles only granted inherent worth and dignity, for example, to all men, rather than to every person, as we use the language now. We adopted our seventh principle in the 80s to acknowledge that our faith can't just end at describing how we covenant to be in community with ourselves and one another, but rather with all existence. We build this structure for change into how we deal with Article 2 because we know that our faith is bigger than the words we use to talk about it with. The struggle to find the right words can be so frustrating. Our faith, after all, is so much bigger than language. Still, when we try to express it in faith, that's holy, worthy work. It's how we carry our message beyond the walls of our congregations. But language can do such a disservice to our faith too, it feels like. We can never express all that our faith may be in words. Whatever words we find to string together will always fall short if we think they're all-encompassing. This is what has happened already among the Article 2 Study Commission with the language of evolution to change to transformation. And it's what many are finding to be true when we know that our faith is about love, but we can't see it written into any of our organizing documents. It's what many are finding to be true when we know that our faith, when we live it authentically, involves holy anti-racist work, but we don't see that work mentioned in our Article 2. If Article 2 sets the limit of our faith, if any language sets the limit of our faith, then we can't really live our faith. But at the same time, we do our faith in language, in covenant, in building aspirations and promises about how to be together in community, in beloved community, in right relationship with each other, with the world, with all that is, with the divine. And these covenants, I believe, are at their best when they're expansive, when they're aspirational, hopeful, maybe when they're impossible. I'm reminded of Adrienne Marie Brown's words that all organizing is science fiction. When we're involved in community organizing work, much like when writing visionary fiction, Brown writes that we are bending the future together into something we have never experienced, a world where everyone experiences abundance, access, pleasure, human rights, dignity, freedom, transformative justice, peace. We long for this. We believe it is possible. Words will always fail us when they describe all that we are, but we can let them be beautiful when we use them to remind us of all that we might become. Grace Lavery writes about how trans people remember themselves before starting gender transition, when we call ourselves eggs, as a little joke because when the egg hatches, a chick comes out. She writes about this tendency many of us notice ourselves having as eggs. After we thought something might be going on gender-wise, but before deciding to act on it towards transition. The tendency that many of us trans people share as eggs is that we find many ways to tell ourselves that we can't transition. It may be moral, maybe we have to unlearn, reconsider, and reckon with our internalized transphobia that tells us it is bad to be transgender. But that's not the only way that we tell ourselves this story. We tell ourselves very compelling stories sometimes. We may tell ourselves that it would be too difficult, that in transition we may lose loved ones. We may tell ourselves that by taking this opportunity for self-discovery, we're closing ourselves off to others. We may tell ourselves that we might not like the world we build for ourselves in transition. And we might be right about many of these. But what makes these eggs different than the ones we scramble is that we can only know for sure that we'd been an egg once we're on the other side of it. Once those stories we've told ourselves are no longer enough to keep ourselves from this sacred calling. I hope that this isn't the trap our Unitarian Universalist movement falls into. I hope that our movement may find the strength of will to start this becoming, to begin our perpetual transition, to hatch. If our tradition is to stay a living tradition like we call it, that's what's required of us. Our principles, our values, our bylaws should change. That will always be true. We shouldn't ever get comfortable with specific wordings to represent all that our faith is. I've struggled with some of the proposed wordings of these drafts, and I know that my faith is outside of them anyway. Right now, I'm inclined to think that my faith is strengthened and challenged in useful ways by the proposed changes. But the thing that I keep bringing us back to on the front of your order of service, this is, I think, the most expansive part of this draft. It's what I get the most excited about. This graph, a visual way to make sense of covenant, not only through language, but also an expression greater than just language. And this chart is included in the draft of Article 2. If it passes, this would be included in our bylaws. These values don't stand on their own. They co-create one another, all centered around love. Whether or not this picture is the most beautiful representation of covenant imaginable, I think it opens a door to new ways that we might visualize our identity, that we might see our faith. It reminds me of the sculptures of Richard Serra. He has a piece called One Ton Prop, or House of Cards, where he used 4 hugely heavy slabs of lead and steel, freestanding as an open cube with no top or bottom. So each of them, these huge, heavy metal slabs, leaned against each other kind of precariously. Upright only because of the play of gravity against the counterforce of the other 3. Perhaps that might be like our values. We can use language that might be precarious to describe our faith, like evolution or change or transformation, because it's held up by our values of interdependence, justice, pluralism, generosity, and equity. And even when we might fall short of living into our values, they're built on the floor that is love. So when we fall in love. When we fail in love. Our universalist heritage reminds us that there's always a path back in love when we're ready to accountably take it. And as Reverend Molly Hausch-Gordon reminded us in our reading, even if we cower before the infinite, we are held within its looping arms all the same. I wonder what other shapes we might construct our covenant in, how else we might express our faith. When my friend tells me that trans people are angels, I take it now to mean that the messy space of becoming is holy. That space of transformation, of transition, that space is sacred. May this be true in our wrestling with the faith we might become, in our journeying towards wholeness, our becoming whole, our becoming a beloved community, our becoming the anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural faith community we profess to be. As we journey towards wholeness, may we invite one another into that sacred space of transition. May we be the better for it. Please, may your Spirit join my prayer. Amen, and blessed be. Please rise as you are able in body and spirit, and join me in singing hymn number 318 Oh, no, not that one. Sorry about that. I'll get to that later. You can sit back down. Thank you. Now is the time in our service where our offering will be collected for the care and sustenance of this congregation.
If you'd like to support the work of this church with a financial donation, you may write out a check to First Church Boston and mail it to 66 Marlborough Street, 02116. You can also donate via text. Simply text the dollar amount, 5, 10, 20, etc., to 617-917-5610. You will receive confirmation by email. Thank you.
think I tried to skip past that beautiful offertory. I told you it's a messy space of becoming. Please join with me in the words to extinguish our chalice, printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Now would you please join me in singing our closing hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning. For our benediction, the words of Assata Shakur. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Go in peace.
Please feel free to join us live each Sunday at 66 Marlborough Street at the corner of Berkeley Street in Back Bay. If you would like more information about programs, services, or membership at First Church, please visit the website www.firstchurchboston.org or send an email to office@firstchurchboston.org.